everyone. This is Teresa Morrison, and I am so excited to be here today with one of our wonderful attorneys out in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Just to give you all a reminder, this meeting today and this interview is going to really focus on our reentry services throughout our rural communities in Tennessee. Another big thing is Happy Giving Tuesday. So, as you know, Giving Tuesday is a worldwide giving day where people in our community can support the nonprofits that they love and admire. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mrs. Tomi Robb. How are you doing today, Tomi?
I'm great. How are you doing, Teresa?
I am good. I'm super excited to be here, as you can tell.
Me too.
um, awesome. Well, Tomi, go ahead and let's get started. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how long you've been at Legal Aid Society.
Okay. So I came out of law school in 2021 and took an Equal Justice Works fellowship, which was with TALS, but actually ended up being embedded with legal aid in the Gallatin office for about 18 months. So I've been working alongside legal aid for a while now, but I've only been an actual legal aid employee for 5 weeks. This is my 6th week starting today.
Look, listen, Tomi hits the ground running every time. When she was our Equal Justice Fellow, she really did a wonderful job and continues to do a good job for Legal Aid Society. So, Tomi, can you explain a little bit or describe what specific program you're a part of and what services Legal Aid Society's reentry team provides to support reentry in our communities?
Okay, so I am a reentry attorney in the Oak Ridge office. Reentry includes several things that we try to use to help people re-enter. So it's the idea of reintegrating, coming back in from incarceration, possibly even someone had a conviction where they weren't necessarily incarcerated, but still have experienced direct disabilities from that conviction. So helping you to just reintegrate. The things that we try to pull together to have a holistic reentry process for people are expungements, which that's the removal of public records for offenses that have been in someone's past, doing certificates of employability. So that's something where you actually go through the circuit court and you basically are judged to be someone who is employable. That can help you with private employers and with licenses for things that perhaps expungements couldn't do for you, so you can get that COE. We do restoration of civil rights and also voting rights, as well as help with driver's license reinstatement and with fees. Costs and fees are a pretty big barrier for people who need reentry help. So we want to try to get waivers in where we can, do affidavits of indigency.
Wonderful. Listen, we do a lot. No, definitely. So I want to hit on, you talked about that we do COEs, we do expungements, we do some of those help with affidavits of indigency. But more particularly, we tend to always focus a lot in our Davidson County communities, which are very urban. There seems to be quite more resources, but you focus in our rural communities. And so, can you talk a little bit about some of the unique challenges that individuals face when reentering society in those communities?
Yes, if I can give a little bit of context to it, there seem to be two main issues. One is pretty straightforward, and just as you might expect, a county with a lower population tends to have less resources, and so that includes personnel. A large county might have a designated person or even a designated team of people that are your go-to for reentry work. But a rural county might have one person who's covering multiple needs, and so they're not going to be regularly reading our very lengthy expungement statute or keeping up with the changes. So the differences in resources are going to lead to differences in outcomes. And then secondly, there's the fact that Tennessee's expungement statute it's been pieced together over several decades. And so parts of it don't really communicate well with itself. And so that miscommunication, that carries out to the processes of 95 different counties. And so when different offices interpret things differently, what is considered expungible maybe in Davidson County, you go to someplace more rural and it's not. So from one county to the next, things are different. And even within a county, from general sessions to circuit, things are different. And so that lack of clarification, that's got real consequences for the people that we serve. And when there's housing on the line and employment on the line, the
Yes.
removal of an old charge that could be pretty straightforward in a place with more resources, it can turn into a back and forth that goes on for months. And in the meantime, that job is gone. That house is gone. And we're
Yes.
talking about a segment of the population where those kinds of opportunities can be really difficult to come by. So just, record keeping, technology and staffing, just not being able to reach someone by phone or not being able to make a payment remotely, having to show up in person with hard copies of paperwork that can't be submitted electronically, those are real hardships for people who have transportation issues, which rural Tennessee, if you don't have your own
Yes.
transportation, getting back and forth to the downtown courthouse can be a big challenge. People don't necessarily have time to take off work because, as we've gone over, they don't necessarily have the kind of jobs they might like to have. And if you take off to go to the office that you need to go to, and there's a problem and you need to come back later, that could be the only time they had to be there. I had a client who had been in person 2 or 3 times in a rural county, and she said, I cannot go up there anymore. I can't take another day off. If I have to physically be
Yeah.
there, I cannot go forward. So it gets to be a very big deal when there's, paper records being kept and just not a lot of technology built in yet to the county.
Wow, Tommy. Sorry. I don't know why I always get so emotional when we start to talk about our clients and the people in our communities who are experiencing these things. And you spoke about just that barrier that even transportation can be a barrier for a client living in a rural community because of course they're living miles and miles away from downtown. Even I think about like internet can be a barrier. So if you have to fill out something online, um, so, just with all the barriers that you talked about, like that it can affect someone's housing, employment, how can these barriers affect the overall financial, emotional, and physical stability of a person living in these areas that is experiencing needing an expungement or needing help paying for court costs?
Right. So even just picking up on that transportation issue, sometimes the only way to get there is to pay for that ride with money that you don't have. So we try to get cost waivers, do affidavits of indigency to handle court costs and fees. When you are doing an expungement, the past due court costs and fees can stop you from being able to process that expungement. Driver's license reinstatements very often come down to being able to pay the fees. As far as the mental and emotional, I was at a family justice center last week
Mhm.
having a conversation, and they asked, what difference does it make for people internally to be able to vote or not? And it has a pretty heavy psychological toll. I think there's some misconceptions around reentry work, but one of the things that people don't realize is that these charges are well behind by the time we're talking about an expungement.
Yes.
For a misdemeanor, the entire sentence, including probation, has to be at least 5 years behind you. For a felony, it has to be at least 10 years behind you. And most felonies cannot come off at all. So when we're talking about doing that expungement, this is a past that is long gone. And the emotional toll of someone being told, hey, we want you to reintegrate, we want you to be a contributing member of society, we want you to take care of your family, who has to be told, your voice isn't allowed to count. You can't participate in your political process in your community. Losing that right to vote and having no means of restoring it has a deep emotional toll. So our voter restoration process in Tennessee has had some issues, some of the same issues as far as from county to county. It's handled differently. And there
Mhm.
actually is an ongoing lawsuit right now. It's recently been certified as class action regarding the fact that there's just no process and there are no standards as to how to complete a certificate of restoration. And so that was leading to people getting completely unequal treatment for very similarly situated people. So you're going through your community going, you and I have had the same background. We've known each other our whole life. You went in and got your rights restored. I went in and didn't get mine. I can't get any response. I can't get an explanation why I've been denied. And that toll is heavy. It just comes
Mhm.
down to people feeling like their voice doesn't matter, even though they've paid their debt and changed their life and moved on. So the less resources, the more the work falls to not enough people for them to set up a dedicated process, the more arbitrary that can be.
Wow. Tommy, that's that's a lot. That process and just you talking about the barriers and that experience for a person. Thank you. And just hearing like the emotional toll that it takes on a person who hey, I don't have access to this, or the access that I want to have is limited. So say that if there is a potential person who needed legal representation or resources regarding expungements, court costs, driver's license reinstatements, what would be a process for them to get help through Legal Aid Society or even through your office?
Please do give us a call. It's toll free
Mhm.
1-800 number. It's 1-800-238-1443. I know an 800 number can make it seem like you're throwing something out to the void, but that actually is a very dedicated and well monitored line.
Mhm.
It's just that our office covers so many counties that it's better to have it in a central location and parse it out to people in your area who can help you. So please don't be intimidated by the 800 number. Please call.
Mhm.
Our eligibility requirements, we do have what's our sort of standard grant, which allows people who are at 125% of the poverty line to receive services. But there are a lot of grants that are specified towards certain locations or towards certain situations. Perhaps someone who has two generations in their home or has had a domestic violence situation in their home. So there are a lot of grants that dedicate, if you don't necessarily meet that, and I want to make sure to throw that out because a lot of people who
Mhm.
have reentry needs, they actually do come in above that 125%. And it's not because they're making money, it's because they can't get their own place. So the household is so large, it kind of skews the
Mhm.
numbers. It's not that they're making so much money they should pay for their own attorney. So please do give us a call on that.
Perfect. And then, Tommy, I know that you do a lot of community advocacy. You do presentations, or you'll meet with community partners to help set up clinics that maybe these communities need. So, if there was a community partner watching today who was like, "I want to help our clients get expungements, or I want to help when it comes to reentry," how could they get in contact with you?
You can call me directly. um, or email me directly, either one.
Perfect.
Tomi Robb, TROBB, at LAS, that's Legal Aid Society.org. If you have one of those pieces to the puzzle, when we bring a clinic to a community, it takes a whole partnership. It's the community centers and the churches and the job centers who are willing to host us. We can't have a clinic without a location. Partnering with the clerk's office, getting in touch with the local DA's office, the local public defender's office, bringing in private attorneys in the area. So there are lots of ways to offer help. We had a clinic one time that somebody said, "Hey, can we bring refreshments? We want to provide something for the people you're serving."
Mhm.
All sorts of great things. So if you want to partner in that, we want to partner in that. We want to put as many clinics in as many counties as we possibly can. So please do reach out. I am always happy to talk about it.
Perfect. Thank you, Tommy. And then I got two final questions for you. So, in the grand scheme of things, as we've been talking, we know that in order to do these, that we need support, that we need help from our community members, from donors. So, why should donors support Legal Aid Society's efforts in addressing reentry issues for rural communities?
If you are helping people who are justice involved, as it's called, in your community, I promise you, you are helping the most marginalized, the least of these in your community. It's kind of, our mind kind of fills in things that we don't really know about. It just kind of automatically fills in details. But 1 in 3 Tennesseans has a criminal background. 1 in 2 Tennesseans has a family member that has been incarcerated. So this is not, some sort of the idea of the other that kind of comes with incarceration.
Hmm.
These are our friends. These are our community members. And if they are part of the justice system in your county, they're in a space where it's permissible to discriminate against them. It's difficult for them to get housing and employment and licensing in a way that's not difficult for the rest of us. And the funds to help people rebuild that, this is them being able to put their family back together, to have them all stay under the same roof, to have the instability moving from job to job and house to house taken out of their lives so that they can rebuild, which is what we all say that we want them to be able to do. But there's more barriers in front of them than you realize. There are people who come out of the system, couldn't find a job, built their own companies, and become millionaires. And they still are facing barriers about what they can do because even that amount of money doesn't take the record away. So if we can have more things to go into putting these clinics, to educating the community, to letting people know their rights, that is something that is supporting absolutely the most marginalized people in your town.
Well said, Tommy. Thank you. Well said. Thank you so much, Tommy. And I just want to end it. Is there anything that we may have missed or that I may have missed or that we didn't discuss before we close off this interview?
I think that was pretty well covered. I think we
Yes,
got it.
ma'am. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, my name's Teresa Morrison. I'm the communications manager here at Legal Aid Society. And this is Tomi Robb, one of our wonderful expungement attorneys who is out there supporting our rural communities with reentry services. At the end of this video, you'll see a small screen that shows you how to get involved with Legal Aid Society, whether that's becoming a volunteer, whether that's donating to our cause. And again, we thank you so much for tuning in. And Tommy, thank you for just having a heart for for our clients, and for the communities in our rural areas who need this access and need access to reentry services. So without further ado, thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.